you thanks and praise today for this ability to worship here together. And praise and thanks for Jesus, who enters the struggle with us, so that we may be assured that whatever we face in this life, whatever good or bad thing may befall us, Christ is already there, already knows every threat to faith that we have to face, and calls us through those things with a future that he has designed for us. We pray in his name. Amen. Last week, Lisa and I went on a short camping trip to Temperance River State Park on the north shore of Superior. And one of our favorite things to do when we go camping is to go out on the loop and look at all the different campers that people pull up to the Minnesota state parks. Some of them are incredibly large and impressive. Some of them are really small and efficient. The modern day camper, can we talk for a second? Amazing engineering feats found in the modern day lightweight camper. And we went out walking, actually driving in our car, to go through the loop and just look at all the different campers. Lisa's late grandmother, Edith, used to call that a gawk walk. She'd say, "Let's go gawking." Which means what? That we'll go out and we'll just take a look at what's going on in the neighborhood. We'll go and in this case, what was going on in the neighborhood of the campers. So we went out for a gawk walk. Actually, we were driving in our car. And as we slowly passed a campsite, there was a happy-looking family. And this picture of this family would be like something if the state of Minnesota wanted to create an advertisement for the Minnesota State Parks. This would be it. The family was around the campfire in this beautiful, idyllic scene. And the dad had his long marshmallow stick, and he had a marshmallow on the end of it, and one of his children was dawdling on his lap. And this took 10 seconds. I can't believe we drove by right at this very moment. But as we were driving by and gawking, I saw the father pull the beautiful golden brown marshmallow out of the fire. And he said out loud to his family, "It's perfect." And as he lifted it out from the fire, his delicious prize suddenly went soft. And it fell off of the roasting stick, as marshmallows sometimes do, and it went right into the dirt in front of him. I'm so glad we saw that moment while we were gawking, because that moment is a perfect summation of the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews was written to early Christians as a sermon for people who had great faith in something perfect and beautiful, the love of God. Think of it almost as a golden brown marshmallow. And now their faith had started to go flat and had drifted into apathy. And so it would be like the advertisement for the state park going soft right before our eyes. And so the book of Hebrews was written as encouragement to people whose faith had started to go south, who longed to see God's promise fulfilled, but just their lives of faith had fallen flat. And the portion of Hebrews that we read today has a couple of really powerful words that I want you to hear from chapter 4 and chapter 5. And the first word is this going to come up, guys? Oh, my clicker's not on. Can you click that for me? Sorry. The first word is sympathize. Sympathize. Pastor David Lowe's Lutheran blogger has a great story that he loves to tell about a Sunday morning when he preached a sermon on forgiveness. And he said, as the people were walking out and shaking his hand, a woman shook his hand and said, "Pastor David, if you really knew me, you wouldn't be so quick to forgive me." But Hebrews says, Jesus does know. Jesus does know who we are. As a matter of fact, being deeply known and loved is what the Christian faith is all about. And Hebrews says Jesus lived a fully human life. He entered the struggle of human life for you and for me, and that matters. Many years ago, there was a lady in my former congregation who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I went to her home, and we sat together, and we read our Bibles, and we prayed. And as we were visiting, I said, I would love to come back and see you again, but I happen to know a lady in the church who has also been diagnosed with breast cancer. Maybe I could make a connection between the two of you. And she looked at me for a second. She said, well, no offense talking to you, Pastor Jeff, but I'd love to talk to someone who's going through what I'm going through. That's the power of having a person with us who knows what we're walking through at that moment. In 2001, I fell and broke my neck. I've told that story here in a sermon. I was in a halo brace. You can still see the notches in my forehead where the halo brace was in my forehead. But here's part of the story that I haven't told too often. One day I had to go to the Mayo Clinic for an appointment with my orthopedist. And we stopped at Culver's on the way. My wife drove. I couldn't drive. And as we were sitting at Culver's in the booth eating my Butterburger, a guy walks up to me out of the blue, and he says, hey, man, and he points at his forehead, and I can see that he's got notches on his forehead like I have now. He says, hey, man, what happened to you happened to me. I made it. You'll make it too. Can you imagine the power of that little conversation and Culver's with a stranger at the weakest moment of my life? At that time in my life, I was not strong enough to walk down to the road and get the mail. And here comes someone along who I don't even know, and he says, I made it. You can make it too. That's the power that Jesus holds over all of our lives, Hebrews says. Hebrews says he's been there. You're sad? Jesus knows that emotion. Something terrible has happened to you. You've been rejected. Jesus knows it. Sadness and defeat, he's been there. Betrayal, he's got that covered. The fear of death itself, he's been there. He knows it well. So wherever you are in your life today, Jesus looks to you and says, I've been there. I made it. I'm going to carry you so that you can make it too. There's a second word in our reading today. The word is confidence. Actually, it came up in our text as boldness. Confidence. And what Hebrews says is, because we have Jesus who sympathizes with us, who knows everything that we have to walk, it says, let us approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace for ourselves and help in time of need. Meeting someone who has walked the walk that we have walked and made it through gives you confidence. Doesn't make you smug, doesn't make you puffed up and prideful. It makes you confidence. Confidence that comes from being brought right to the brink of disaster, and from that brink to be carried by the Spirit of God. And that was the form of Jesus' life, right? Did you hear that part of it? He offered up prayers and loud cries with tears to the one who could save him from death, and was heard because of his reverent submission. I'm a Twins fan. I've been going with them this year, man. Things are looking good. Last week, this happened. You're going to have to go to the video. I'm not clicking. Hannah, can you just click it up?
Time to look at a peak performance from tonight's game. You'll like this. Brought to you by Mayo Clinic Sports Medicine.
Pinch hitting for Cade, but eyes at second, Sano at first, and the first pitch, a swing and a drive. Right field and deep, back it goes! Twins lead! A pinch hit, go ahead! 3-run homer, and the Twins take a 4-3 lead. A guy that heard some boos late yesterday. He may get a curtain call here momentarily. First pitch ready, first pitch fastball, and a line drive blast to right. Got the crowd going, got the Twins dugout going, Ball banged off the ribbon board.
Hey, it came with an ad for the Mayo
Be
Clinic. I
better
didn't
than
know
ever.
that.
Exceed your goals by visiting sportsmedicine.mayoclinic.org.
That's Eddie Rosario. He's one of my favorite Twins. Love watching Eddie play left field. They say that he is the most confident Twins hitter. Hit a home run in his first major league at bat. Did you know that? Hit a home run in his first playoff at bat. But did you hear right at the end of that video? It said he heard a few boos last night because the night before that game, Eddie brutally butchered a routine fly ball that led to one of the worst losses of the season for the Twins. They lost 14-4 to the terrible New York Mets. And later in that same game, he loafed after a ground ball in left field. And at the beginning of that game against the Oakland A's, you know where Eddie was? Where do you go if you loaf after ground balls in the outfield? He was on the bench. And so he hit that home run, that 3-run go-ahead home run, late in the game with the Twins trailing 3-1. Despite the errors and the benching, he was up there at the plate, first pitch hacking, putting it over the fence. You got a few errors in your background? Muffed a few routine fly balls in life? Loafed after a few ground balls? Hebrews says, despite your weakness, you have a great high priest who sympathizes with you, who knows everything that you know. And because you have him, or maybe we should say better yet, because he has you, you can approach the throne of God with confidence, because Jesus has entered the struggle with you. So go up there hacking. Go up there first pitch swinging, because Jesus' sympathy awakens and empowers in our lives a new life for which we can reach grace. So we were at Temperance River last week, and I'm walking along the water, and I come across this massive pine tree. It must be 75, 80 feet tall. And I look up at this pine tree, and as I'm looking at it, I look down and I realize this pine tree is planted in the most precarious place you've ever seen. It's right on the edge of the cliff that looks out over that massive lake. And I don't know how this tree ever made it in that place where it is right there, hanging over that tree, over that lake. But down below, there are these great, big, thick, ropey roots that go down into this inhospitable rock. And Hebrews chapter 4 says, that's what the Christian life looks like. It grows out of places that are inhospitable, that are utter failure. It grows out of places that nothing should grow and is rooted in the sympathizing heart of Jesus so that we can approach God with confidence, with boldness, like a pine tree reaching for the sky. That's what I want you to have in your faith. Celebration, confidence. To go up there first pitch hacking despite the failures of life. And to know at the end of all things, at the end of all of this, all the joys and all the challenges, Jesus will meet us and he'll say, I've been there. I've been from death to life. I'm going to take you there too. Amen.